What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today Battlefield 5. Before we really get into things, I think we need to talk about a concept in the art world, which is the Uncanny Valley. This is a term that basically tries to spell out the fact that the closer something is to human, the more we can relate to it. But when it's right on the cusp of being fully lifelike, instead of being alluring, it's unnerving. What I mean by that is, say you see something that looks almost completely like a person, but as you get closer, you realize that it's a robot. It instantly kind of creeps you out or terrifies you. And I feel like, in many different ways, Battlefield 5, it reminds me of this idea, this concept, but not because the graphics are bad, instead because Battlefield 5 is trying so much at once. It wants to be a giant multiplayer game and have these really deep stories, but in its effort to try and do everything, it accomplishes nothing. This was one of my most hyped games of the year. I was really hotly anticipating it because I'm a big fan of the Battlefield series, and specifically World War II shooters. This is such an amazing era to have real big set pieces and really awesome areas where we're actually wandering through blown out cities. So I thought that the potential was basically unlimited, when unfortunately that's not the case. Battlefield 5 is a very bad game, but something that within it seems to have so many good ideas, diamonds in the rough that are stuck in an unfortunately very negative project. So for this review, I'm going to try and chop it in half and talk about the single player and the multiplayer as their own chunks, because they're completely different. They play their own way, they don't really interact in any way, and I think that that's the best way to really focus the different flaws of the different types of gameplay. Let's begin with the single player because it's so incredibly short, it's very easy to go over. So this uses the same system as Battlefield 1 had, which is the war stories. Basically, there are individual campaigns focusing on different characters, and basically the thing is that everybody has their own individual mission, like a guy who decides to leave prison, join the army, and is now trying to sneak around behind enemy lines to blow up different Nazi bases, or somebody who's a skiing assassin. Now, each one of these on their own is not particularly bad, but the biggest flaw that immediately jumped out at me is that they are way too easy. I actually beat these on hard because initially I noticed that almost everybody dies in 1 or 2 hits, and they really emphasize stealth in this. Basically, every single space is done the same way, which is that you go up on a hill, you use binoculars to spot all the enemies, and then you go down there and mess them up, either one by one with your knife, or go in guns blazing and just try and shoot everybody down. But no matter how you handle it, you're essentially going to have no resistance. These people are so weak and so bad at aiming that you're really not in any danger ever. And I also noticed that there seems to be either a weird gameplay mechanic or a bad glitch where the lower your health gets, the more the enemies cannot aim at you. I seriously had a bunch of different occasions where I was walking along, I got hit a couple times by surprise, and then suddenly everybody basically got blindfolded and could not shoot me. So it essentially made it where the weaker I was, the more blatant I'd be in my attacks, because I knew that I was RoboCop. Nobody could hurt me. This goes even more so when it comes to me just being completely brazen and doing stuff like flying a plane straight into a side of a base, jumping out and taking no damage somehow, running in there, gunning down 15 guys, and blowing up a giant satellite, because this game is just so built to be ultra easy mode that it's very baffling. I feel like the best stories that take place in World War II are the times where they manage to slow things down and make you realize that there was a lot of terror at the front lines. These people did not want to die, but they knew that for the good of the country and for the good of the world, they needed to kill every single Nazi they could. So the fact that this is so cartoonishly simple is kind of a disappointment, especially because you can beat this entire thing in about 3 hours. Yes, you heard me correctly. I beat everything in 3 hours. The missions we had in other Battlefield games were never particularly long, but I'm really getting annoyed about the fact that if these games are going to try and advertise the fact that they have a story, give us some real meat on the bones, give us some real missions, give us some real objectives, and give us some challenges that are going to keep me at least occupied for a day. Okay, so now that we're done really ripping into that mess, let's talk about the multiplayer, because honestly, this is the main reason most people are going to be buying it. Multiplayer here is a little bit different because it seems like they're trying to focus more on long-term players, the people who are going to be sitting down and playing the game for 2 or 3 hours minimum. The main reason I say that is that there's certainly different game modes that have been introduced here that really kind of reward your dedication. Like, one of them is something where it takes place over the course of several matches, where basically at the beginning you'll be doing something like airdropping onto this coast and trying to take over a bunch of anti-air guns and slowly taking over the entire map base by base, inch by inch, until eventually that round ends. And then it takes you to the next map. And basically there is a series of maps called days. And the big thing here is the fact that every single round you manage to win, it carries bonuses over to the following matches, to make it where if you manage to do something like blow a giant hole in a base, then maybe the next round you'll have tanks to back you up because now they were able to break through the enemy lines. Or if you're somebody who lost to the original match, then maybe you'll have something like less barriers to use in the next matches. And I think that's a cool idea. I actually really think that this is pretty brilliant, but my problem is that it never really feels that substantial because there's just so much going on at once. It's hard to really worry about the different buffs or the real objectives I'm having. I'm so focused on the minute-to-minute action of getting that next headshot or trying to revive a friend of mine that I'm not really focusing on the overall point. It's just one of those things where I feel like Battlefield 5 is so lasered in on the idea of kill, 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 run, run, run. So when you're suddenly making me worry about scooping up explosives off the ground or communicating with my teammates about where they're trying to rush us from, it begins to murk up what I think is a very clear original vision. I think that something they did in here that is pretty cool though is I do like all the different classes. They're not particularly special and they don't have like crazy benefits, but I think that each one is unique. You have soldiers, medics, and snipers, and each one really does have their own sort of benefit. Now, one of the big differences here is that everybody can revive. I mean, you can walk up to any dead body in the ground and pick them up, but medics can revive the fastest. Something they've done here is that dying is very, very slow. When you run out of health and fall on the ground, you're not immediately taken back to a respawn. Instead, you spend a couple seconds sitting there and screaming your head off to get some help. But if somebody walks up during that time period, they can scoop you up off the ground and put you right back into the fight. It is possible if you want to die a little bit faster though, which sounds really messed up to say, but basically you can choose to die faster or die slower to hope that somebody grabs you before you're claimed by the cold hands of death. This is really one of those mechanics that I think probably made a lot of sense on paper, but in action does not work. I actually despise this. I feel like the game should ask me if I want to die slower, but by default, let me respawn in a couple seconds. I hate the fact that I'm constantly having to worry about how quickly I'm respawning, what's going on around me, and who I'm going to be spawning on, because this game really tries to play up the idea of squads, this system dynamic, but never does it really feel like it's properly utilized. Something that is nice though is that depending on what you play with, it levels up individually. So online you have an overall rank that slowly grows as you manage to win matches and get a bunch of experience points, but separately you're also leveling up each of the classes. This does stuff like unlocks new guns, gives you more abilities, and makes it where you can equip different perks. But something else about this that I thought was cool is that your different guns also level up. So as you're going along, if you're doing something like using the sniper class a lot like I was, when I am recon, I am blasting everybody. So because of it, my sniper rifles were leveling up very, very quick. So I was able to do stuff like give them specific benefits, making it where my scope is more efficient, my bullets fly faster, or I can reload quicker. These things really ended up making it where I could impact the way I played. But there is definitely the downside of the fact that strong characters definitely feel a little bit overpowered. And what I mean by that is there is a very short time to kill. Just a couple rounds will instantly put you down. So if somebody happens to have a maxed out leveled, super perfectly customized assault rifle and they come up behind your team, they're probably going to get 15 kills before they get dropped. Something else about this that I feel like used to be balanced out is that really powerful characters like this, who are excellent and super skilled, normally they'd end up getting killed eventually by tanks and stuff. Vehicle combat is obviously a pretty substantial part of the Battlefield formula. Whereas here, I can't tell exactly how, but they've definitely been weakened. It seems like every vehicle can only aim in very select zones now, making it where a lot of times bad guys are literally just walking behind you and laughing when you're in a tank, or if you're in a plane, everybody is just going past each other so quick you can't really land a shot. It's really weird to say this, but at this point I feel much more deadly when I'm on foot than when I'm in an armored vehicle. All of these things are just so confusing. I feel like Battlefield 5 had so much potential, but the longer I played it, the more I just grew to actually despise it. Where's the raw feeling in this? Where's the passion? Where's the fear to save every bullet? Why am I not actually worried about winning the match? Something about this is missing its magic, and I'm very sad about that. And the fact that we don't even have the Battle Royale mode that they promised us, and it's not coming out for months, makes me disappointed that I even played it. Overall, I'm not saying that this game is the worst thing of the year. I'm just saying that it's something that should have been drastically better than it was. Okay, so we've heard some good and some bad, but let's go to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Battlefield 5 a 4.5 out of 10. If you've really been trying to search for something that would feel fresh and new and put a cool weapon in your hands, maybe check out Call of Duty. I know it's shocking that I'm saying that, but honestly, Black Ops 4 is surprisingly good. I mean, I'm not really a fan of Activision, but I think that great work needs to be rewarded, and this is not something that deserves your dollars. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad, and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.